I'll reiterate what I said before too, because obviously it's been like fucking 30 minutes. Obviously what happened 2 days ago was embarrassing. OOC. And regardless of like if a bunch of retards believe that it wasn't, you know, that's because that's the name of the game, right? People do dumb shit all the time and then we'll say one thing because, with all due respect, chat is stupid, right? Because that's just how Twitch chat is, right? I can tell you the earth is flat and a lot of you guys are probably going to start questioning your life. But it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that there was a lot of veiled statements, right? If you look at them in isolation, sure, you could argue, you know, it was I see, but when you enumerate through everything, then no, it wasn't. That was a child having a temper tantrum and a mental breakdown. That said, it doesn't mean that criminals haven't, like, I don't think it's, there is value in seeing, like, you know, weighing it, right? There is, like, importance to weighing how egregious it was. But at the same time, you know, you have to also recognize that I'd say over the course of 2 months, things have been pretty bad all around the, things have been a bit pretty bad across the board. You know what I mean? Cop, crim, civ, like, you fucking name it. There does need to be some self-reflection involved, right? Instead of hyper-focusing on like a singular individual entity, etc., etc. Because I do think that crims in many respects are complicit in some of the breaking down of things. And I think until you're willing, like all parties, like, and we're not like all parties, I mean like, are sort of able to have that self-reflection like adults, I don't think, you know, you're ever gonna really see resolvement across the board. Yeah, so Barry, give me one.
1 sec.
No, Vexia, thank you for the fresh sub, man. I don't really give a shit whether no, I think the admin thing is a foolish point to bring up, in my opinion. I don't think it's relevant. Doesn't matter. Like, I think, you know, as I've thought about the topic more, I think it was important to draw that. Yes, I did.
Yo, you see how you like bolt your stills down into the ground?
Mm-hmm.
As of a few days ago? Okay.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of meditating to Luna, you know? And
yeah, same. I may or may not have told the guy to like do it like 4 fucking weeks ago, but you know,
oh
finally.
shit! Hell yeah, dude. Okay.
I should also show you my spot. This spot is kind of fucking crazy.
Yeah, I'm down. I can show you mine as well. It's good to keep eyes. You know what I mean? You never know.
True. So far, like the last 2 weeks, it's been really safe, and no one's even got to this place. So.
Yeah, I'm still always gonna be a little like weary as to like, you know,
yeah,
who, what, where, when, you know what I mean? because there's still gonna be the potential rats in the sewers that just kind of like pop out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yep.
All right, I got to go.
Okay, dude.
Light up.
Later, bro. Hey, Pete. Meet me in the back. But a fact. Okay, sorry. I did a lot of like thinking about it, like beyond what I said yesterday, and you know, obviously this topic isn't gonna go away, and that's the crazy thing about it, right? It's not one of those things that you can just like pretend didn't occur, blah 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 blah, you know, because at the end of the day, right? Hold on, let me do this. 27887 7887. The problem is it's got like direct relationship now with what happens going forward, but you know, it is not lost on me that criminals at time are doing like absolutely fucking brain dead shit, saying brain dead shit. It's not lost on me that crims have been toxic. I do think that to some degree it's important to consider those things, because things don't just materialize into a final conclusion and then, you know what I mean? The last one to push the line is not going to be the one solely in the wrong. You know? Things didn't just get there. But it goes back to what I said before, is that I think right now the conversation between communities is egregiously self-centered and just quite frankly retarded, because it's become by and large a no consequence versus hyper consequence, and both positions are full retarded. And when I say it like that, I mean and I reference communities, I'm talking about like the commentary, like the online commentary, right? Not by streamers, but rather those who try to speak on our behalves, which is usually the culprit. Because instead of dialogue between parties, it becomes the communities who are doing the dialogue for us. And I think that's the real issue. Too much dialogue between communities as opposed to dialogue between parties. And that's something that I think generally probably needs to start happening a little bit more, right? Because at the end of the day, right, it's kind of one of those things where like, no, Mickey's podcast is not, well, I don't know, maybe. I think those are, see, like, as much as like, no, I think those conversations are better behind closed doors. Why the fuck would you need, I think the podcasts are good in like, bro. No, this shit needs, these are things that should be private. You know what? The biggest thing that was valuable in Arma was salt rooms. Salt rooms were so good. Salt rooms need to come back. Salt rooms need to come back. We've been saying it for a minute, but I think salt rooms need to come back. I think over like suspensions and bans and all that. Like, I think it needs to, because the thing is, like, you can't like have proper, ain't nobody got time to write up like fucking, you know, a bunch of shit. Like salt rooms back in the day, back in Arma, used to be like, what would happen is like, let's say I had a problem with like Rami, right? Like, let's say Rami said some shit to me, right? Or I said some shit to him. Like, let's say okay, I'll give you an example. Let's say I started making fun of like Rami and I was like, yo, motherfucker needs Ozempic or whatever, bro. And then Rami was like, got mad at that and took it really personal, he would go and like, what would happen is like, he'd go to an admin and be like, yo, dasMEHDI's being toxic and saying I need Ozempic. And so what would happen is that the recourse for it would be that you would be forced in a timely manner to have both parties in a call with like 2 admins, and you would lay shit out. And the beauty of that is that it forces dialogue. Now you can be like, well, what if both parties go at each other? Who gives a fuck? Like, everyone's an adult. If you can't sit in a room with someone, like literally, this isn't like Israel versus Palestine. It's fucking role play, right? If you can get like fucking 2 psychos, you know, with hyper positions on, you know, on a talk show in front of 100,000 people, why can't you get 2 people on a RP server playing like pretend cop and pretend criminal in a room together? You know what I mean? You know? And yeah, the beauty of those salt rooms was like, it really forced the parties to like put everything on the table and really get their perspective out, because you can't get that perspective in simple like text form. And the admins would effectively act as like mediators, and the ideal wasn't necessarily punishment. It's like, it was like resolution, until and if there needed to be resolution or actual action taken. And I feel like things like that, like arbitration, yeah. And I feel like that kind of shit would be like really good, because otherwise, like I said, man, I think a lot of dialogue, and that's why I'm even saying anything, is because I saw people were saying some dumb shit in chat, and I don't subscribe to it, right? Like, I don't subscribe to the hyper retarded position of like, it's only one person and it's only this one problem, when the reality of the matter is, I'll lay it out for you, is that the whole consequence term has gotten memed. Why? Because the whole argument about consequences is actual real. And how do you get people to think it's not a real problem? You act like a fucking retard using the word consequence, and you turn the word into a meme, right? Anyone with an adult functioning brain knows what's happening. The problem is, a lot of our roleplay viewers are stupid, right? And we do it on the crim side too, right? We do it on the crim side too. Like the argument of, well, like I'll give you an example of a crim argument that's super brain dead, but viewers eat up. You guys aren't taking this personally, right? Like, you guys acknowledge that the vast majority of Twitch chat tends to be really dumb, especially with RP. Like, are not passionate, like they get blinded. It's probably blinded is a better word. I'll give you an example of like a crim argument that's been memeified into the point where, like, it's a debate bro tactic. It actually is. So, like when crims say someone chose to perma, I hate when crims say that. It is so self-centered, selfish, and retarded. But a lot of crim viewers have bought into that being like a legitimate statement. It is such a selfish statement, right? Now, don't get me wrong, it happens occasionally, but it's not, but like the one-off situations are not like representative of the whole, right? And like, and I think it's important to bring that nuance back to this conversation, because without that nuance, you might as well just like, you know, I hate, yeah, if you don't bring the nuance back to the conversation, or it's too late, well, you might as well, like, you know, wrap that gavel up, B. You know what I'm saying? Because what's next, right? Take an example of what happened to Ruth, right? What happened to Ruth was so fucking like brain dead. The amount of like absolute retardation, I'm using that word a lot because it's the best descriptor, where like people had selfishly drank this bottle of copium that Den and Cornwood shouldn't be in trouble for being IC idiots. Now, I think Den was targeted, absolutely, and a lot of, you know, friends and family were protected, and that was an issue. But that was so fucking dumb. Because as a consequence of her removal, the PD became probably one of the worst iterations of PD since 1.0. And when I make a statement like that, it's not to say, look at all the cop streamers, they suck. Which unfortunately is the way that a lot of communities want to be like victims. Everyone's a victim. It doesn't matter if you're a cop, doesn't matter if it's a criminal. Everyone wants to be a victim because they want their audiences to think they're a victim, literally everybody, so that you garner sympathy and you buy into these like dumb narratives. At the end of the day, I don't think anyone's like really thinking about things like an adult. It's all like emotional, passionate, like logic bound like idiocity. Is that it became like victim complex. It happens all the time. People start crying. Everybody does. And then all of a sudden there is no narrative. It's like, oh my God, woe is me. Instead of saying, okay, rationally, what transpired and what's the better solution for the whole, right? Like, who gives a shit if Den got suspended? Now, should he have been targeted? No, of course not. Would there have been as much of an issue if other officers got equal treatment? No, of course not, right? But was the solution that everyone and their mother started to breathe down Ruth's neck? No, of course not. That shit was fucking toxic, and it was retarded. So to circle back to, you know, worst iteration of PD that I've witnessed, I've played Crim, I've played Cop, and I say that with like my history backing it. Not to say I'm some sort of roleplay god, but that's my personal observation. And it's not because the cop role players are bad. It's because fundamentally they genuinely drive around and do not know the fundamentals of RS and PC. A lot of their arrests are extremely bad faith. I've seen it while playing Brian, and so much so that I didn't want to play the character. Not because of any other reason other than watching investigations get hyper speed run, being mechanic based. People targeting criminals off personal grievances and then leaning on the fact that there's not enough justices to, you know, back it up. You know? Is that why you rarely play him? Yeah, because what would happen is, like, even in the case of like Cornwood was, like, S-Fan was saying some super age shit for like a good month straight. I'll just say it straight up. Like, I didn't really make a big deal of it, but like I want you to remember back then where, at the time, when he was getting in trouble, he was saying super age shit. And I remember, like, even just RPing like these guys doing dumb shit, my man went around saying like some hyper weird shit because he got in his feels. I don't hold it against him, but he was acting like a baby back bitch at the time, right? And we've acted like baby back bitches at times too, right? I'm not ignorant of that. Yeah, someone didn't get their way and they started to cry about it. And it was like 1 month, like, we can pretend, and that's kind of why like this whole narrative of like only Chang Gang is like doing this, and no, literally everybody does it, right? Should it be happening? Probably not. I mean, it was like a month, I wasn't even on my character and this dude was crying about, you know, Lion Knight and all this shit and like riling up his community. Now all of a sudden he gets bit back by Chang Gang doing the same thing, and oh my God, it's the end of the world, right? It was fucking brain dead. I'm sorry, if those things hurt, but you got to put the facts on the table. Everyone gets in their fields. It's role play. We sometimes forget that these are characters. And even with among chain gangs, sometimes we forget that too. We have to like remember those things. That's why I'm saying you have to think like internally too. Is that sometimes we get so much in our fields that like we forget these are characters and they're not like, I get it. Sometimes us as players can, I've done it myself as well. I remember a long time ago, I got really pissed while playing Brian and I said some things I regret. It's because I think, like, generally speaking, what happens is, I think what ends up happening is sometimes we, when you're role playing, right? We're playing like a hyper, like, power fantasy, right? Where we're getting different, sometimes like, no matter what character you play, there's going to be like a bit of you inside of that character, right? There's going to be a bit of you inside that character, like to various degrees. And sometimes when you're like, I think, and in a way, you're kind of like always method acting on different degrees, right? Like, I'll give you an example. There's a reason why Little Tugs, Brian, and Nino share like a very similar interest in like legal shit, right? Like Little Tugs does First Amendment auditing. Nino is like a crazy lawyer and like, you know, like he's very like about like nuance in law, and then Knight is like very particular in application of buildup of RS to PC, etc., etc. It's because I, OOC, enjoy that particular like space, right? So some of these things like materialize through the character, some characters more than others. Like Nino is more closer to a self-insert for me than, say, or maybe Brian in its own way, right? Tugs is my least self-inserty. It's almost like Ryan Kindle with a little bit. My point is that sometimes when you play these things for an extended enough period of time, you can forget in the moment. And then you tackle on the fact that these are our jobs. We have audiences. People have different levels of like being able to manage alternate opinions bleeding into your chat, right? Like, you know, you have a bad interaction with a cop and you're pissed. You have the right to be pissed, but at the same time, when your audience goes and jumps into like another, you know what I'm saying? So I think really what I'm trying to paint here is that I think it's important, I think, more now to do across the board sort of self-reflection. And I don't know, I kind of sort of landed on, I think we need more of these like OSC conversations instead of conversations via communities, because that's all it's kind of turned into, I think. And it's, for me, it's kind of annoying, right? Like, am I triggered by, is what happened 2 days ago stupid as fuck? Yeah, absolutely. Was it childish? 100%. But is it like the sole focus of what the entire conversation should be about? Absolutely not. I think that's just as dumb. And if it does become the sole focus, give it another 2 weeks and there'll be another big disaster. 2 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever. It's just a ticking time bomb at that point. It doesn't like solve, it doesn't heal, it doesn't, you know, all the things that are like necessary. Yeah, exactly. Because it's just like I said, it's festering. I do think that things like podcasts are good, but that's only like post-resolution, right? But pre-resolution, I think I personally think I want to see salt rooms back. That's kind of where I'm at with it. Like, for example, like, and we'll use like people that we RP with. Let's say I get pissed. I'll give you an example, right? Obviously we're adults. Okay. Look, I'm going to say something that's probably going to be offensive to 95% of Twitch. Guys, you have to keep in mind that, oh my God, this is going to be so bad. You have to understand that we have to understand that a lot of people haven't had IRL experiences. You have to understand a lot of people started streaming in like high school into college, and they don't know these things. They've never been taught because they haven't had like an OOC job. I'm trying to be the 40-year-old man of wisdom here, and I know that sounds bad and people hate hearing it, but like, yes, in a perfect world, adults would go and sit in a room together and know that, like, and I'm talking about across the board here. I'm going to keep saying this across the board. We're not saying anyone in particular needs to sit down, right? Take away what's happening between Changang and Max for a moment. Remove that from your brain for a second, right? I'm saying if tensions are high, right? Adults, and you're like, yo, this is getting weird, you got to go and like reach out, right? But the fact of the matter is, not everyone is going to be adult-like when pretending to LARP in GTA roleplay as pretend cops, pretend criminals, pretend lawyers, pretend judges, pretend this and that. And I think it is a necessity that maybe that's where the value of assault room comes into play, is because that's when someone comes in and be like, you two into my office now. What the fuck is going on? And then motherfuckers got to lay that shit out. You know what I mean? And then boom. Yeah, of course it's got to be off. Bro, of course it's got to be off stream. Why would you want a bunch of fucking papegas like chiming in? Because the moment it happens on stream, and you know, Reddit used to jump down this narrative back in 2.0, like, we're part of the community too. We made you guys. We need to be a part of the conversation. No, you're retarded. Sit the fuck down. Find a different hobby. No, because the moment you do those things on stream, it becomes content versus content. And not an honest conversation. Yeah. You know? Yeah, you might as well fucking UFC pay-per-view some shit. So anyways, like I said, man, I just yeah, there you go, man. There you go. For those who tuned in a little late, this is stemmed off like just some dumb shit that was being said in chat that was like hyper one-sided. I don't think there needs to be like, it's not like a black and white situation, but I don't want, as much, going back to what I said, as much as that was egregious, let's not hyper focus on one thing when there's been a broader spectrum of a problem that may have umbrellaed into this. Right. And yeah, anyways, let me call these guys.
What's up, Tux?
Yeah, I did.
We're good. I was gonna ask you something about gold bars, but never mind.
Gold bars, suicide doors, na 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 na.
Good shit. Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good, dude.
All right, I'm gonna peanut and stuff, but you know, that's when I'm rolling in tight shit, so I'm getting my surfboard.
Yeah, bro. Okay.
Okay, be safe.
Let me know if you need anything. Get space.
Got you, bro.
Oh yeah, I was gonna get what's his face. Let me go cook these real quick if I got time. One side was just waking up and like act like nothing happens. That's the end of the story. That's exactly my point, right? That's exactly my point. Is that the resolution should never be someone doesn't wake up anymore. So. Bump, 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 bump. Hyperpolarization's never good, to be honest, on anything. Zing. Asshole. Wait, do I have time? Fuck, I only got 4 stills. Fuck it. Let's do 4 stills for now. I'm too lazy. I don't want to cook too much today. I enjoyed the RP the last couple days, so like, I do need to get Kiko up though. Maybe after Storm. Dumb question. Oh, dumb question. If a cop can arrest a criminal and lock him up for days, can't criminals do the same to cops, build a prison? No. Okay. Listen, guys, you have to remember I got ADHD as fuck. You know what I'm saying? And so forgot about the consequence thing. Yeah, the whole consequence thing is so memed that it's just like retard takes. I'll tell you what the actual thing is. If you do terrorism, if you do murder, you should not be surprised you're getting a huge fine and getting a lot of huge fine and a lot of time. That needs to happen. If you can just go around like doing terrorism and murdering people, then literally no one's gonna give a shit. However, hold on 1 second, chat. However, you have to understand that the basis of a lot of that was also sitting on the premise of it was very difficult to make money. So the fine at a point of time, right? Because everyone's got goldfish memory, is that you couldn't make shit, right? You have to understand that a lot of this has been like a buildup of emotion where you could do crim stuff and make a fraction of what a civilian was making. And I think a lot of criminals were saying, why are we playing Second Life, where the optimal road to success was playing a boring ass civilian that sits in G6 all day and becomes the richest in the city. It's so dumb. Since then, the developers and those in charge of NoPixel have resolved that. They've taken the feedback. They've implemented changes, as you've seen some of the changes, right? It's not like they haven't been taking feedback. They have. Now you can make really good money doing crim shit. I think arguably more than you can as a Civ. be it weed, be it moonshine, now like even doing like fucking roof running and stuff is making good money because the time commitment has reduced to 50%, right? While simultaneously civilians have been given more out. You with me? So the time and fine in and of itself was not, it was that you couldn't make it. You couldn't make that money. You could, if you ended up, a lot of that conversation from way back when was more principled on the fact that if you became a felon, it got exponentially more difficult to even be able to role play because you'd end up having to spend all day grinding just to survive. You know what I mean? The second layer to that conversation and the concern, which has been, so all these things are being addressed, right? So it's not worth getting hyper mad about it to begin with. Is the inherent nature, and I'll tell you right now, cops should not be able to, when shot down in critical state, if you get beat up, that's one thing. If you're in a critical state, you should not be able to, by rule, be able to make call-outs or make accurate reports. I don't know at what point who introduced that back into roleplay. That is the worst decision, and that is the centralized thing that no one seems to be bringing up, is this centralized root cause for a lot of people being mad. I don't know why anyone doesn't bring it up. I think it's because a lot of folks aren't able to like actually get their thought process out. It's generally the biggest problem. That if you literally execute 5 cops and then there's like a report where they're like, yo, it was this person that I, you know, and I identified them without a mask and it was da 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 da, and now there's a warrant and you're in jail. That's so brain dead. Whoever introduced that into the police department should not be in that position. I would argue that has been probably the biggest issue. Because I want you to, like, in your mind, think back at how many problems that's generated, right? You can look at the side effect, the thing at the end of the day, right? You know, you can look at the fine and time of the charge or whatever and hyper focus on that. But you have to think about, well, how did that arrest even transpire, right? Because I'll explain why that's an issue. The reason why there's been derivations of New Life Rule, rules like NVL, why these exist in roleplay, is so that storylines and like, obviously we didn't come up with those rules like in NoPixel. These are rules that have been in RP servers forever. They have and why every server has those 2 basic rules. It's principled on the fact that if someone is executed or whatever, and they wake up in the hospital, they don't remember what transpired. The reason that has always been a rule is so that there is not an endless conflict. It's so that conflicts come to a natural resolution, like in the little story points. It's why when someone gets ocean dumped, they are supposed to forget because that beef is no longer supposed to be there. Unfortunately, over time, obviously, some of those things have been power gamed, right? Like you teach someone a lesson and then ocean dump them, and it's like, well, how do they remember this now, right? That I think, yeah, like some 3.0 ocean dumps by Papegas, like, right, have result. It's made people be like, well, what's the point, right? But you know, that inherently holds true when it comes to shootings as well, is that if we go and execute a cop, their testimony should be literally less than hearsay, you know what that would result in? A criminal being able to execute their punishment by shooting, right? Getting their criminal consequence out. And if they get away, they got away. And guess what happens next? Nothing, the next storyline. But instead, because of the foolishness of what has been introduced back into RP, which I don't know why it entered back into PD, it wasn't like this for years, is that somehow cops are like okay with being shot down and calling for arrests on the ground, are remembering every detail of while they're on the ground. And you can argue like all these dumb reasons why it's necessary, but the fact of the matter is, you know what that ends up doing? Instead of that criminal getting away and being satisfied and everyone moving on to the next thing, now all of a sudden they're going and catching those people, aiming for it, and now it jumps back and it jumps back and it jumps back. Like, that's literally one of the biggest problems. Like, that's why it was so stupid when the console was shot up and people are making calls on the ground. It's not a winning and losing thing. It's like, how does the story end if no one gets to end it? If everyone, just as an example, if everyone in that room was shot down, right, and they didn't exactly know what transpired, guess what? Right? Obviously, there still would have been the video and all these other things. Don't get me wrong, but I want you to understand that it would have played out very differently. It would have played out very differently when we've executed cops in the past, and then all of a sudden you've got a warrant. That things would go very differently with even Tugs and like Avery, for example, if she wasn't shot down. And this isn't on Avery, right? She's been taught inappropriately, I think, by the PD. Is that, you know, inappropriate is that like when she was shot down, but then all of a sudden they have all the facts and evidence and the detainment reasons and da-da-da-da-da. You get what I mean? So I think some of these like little nuances that are that I think we're collectively looking past and only looking at the conclusion and what, you know, not the conclusion, but looking at like sort of the end product is the wrong way to look at it. It's like running a factory and being like, why are these white shirts are stained pink, and being like, this is ridiculous. Why are these pink? And the manufacturer's like, oh, well, they're pink. All right. They're getting stained pink. You're going to have to get these. And the guy who's buying it's like, bro, I don't want fucking stained pink white shirts. The fuck? And then having everything focused on that particular argument instead of someone saying like, well, why the fuck is the factory producing stained pink shirts? You get what I mean?